Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ajwa. Let me introduce you to some exotic, matured smelling fruity fragrances. I love my simple, generic, everyday girly fruity scent, but sometimes when you want to feel more matured, more dressed up for more special occasions, you would want to go with something more, with a bit of a punch than the usuals. And I have 11 of such fragrances here. And the first one I have here is one I've been meaning to get for a long time. I was really expecting a lot from this. People have called it complex, not mass appealing. It's got like mixed reviews, and I wanted to experience it for myself. And I'm so glad I've been able to experience Ajmal's Wisal Dahab for myself. And I will simply say, this is amazing. This is not your average generic peach scent. It is a heavy peach scent, but it's also very complex in that it has a very powdery, matured rose scent to it. It is not going to be for everyone. It is not. It feels like a very polished fragrance for a matured nose and for more special occasion. It could be for every day, it could be for every day, but to me, there's something about this fragrance that gives me matured and special occasion, or more dressed up, vibe. It is not your typical sweet, it doesn't come across as sweet. It is heavy in peach and then apple with some mandarin oranges, some rose, geranium, and some woods. But what you're going to get the most from this, or what I get the most from this, is that peach, which is not sweet. It is unsweetened, and the apple here feels very crisp. It is not your candied or baked apple. It is more of a crisp, fresh apple coupled with the peach, which is also not sweet. So you're not getting that level of sugary sweetness you might be wanting from other fruity scents. This is more matured, less sweet or not sweet at all, but that powdery rose, which gives it like a powdery matured vibe, is what sells this fragrance to me. I like the fact that it's not like a heavily fruity one, but boxed with that geranium rose, woody, base, and it's so beautiful, almost on the borderline sexy, like a nighttime sexy fruity floral, scent to me. This is beautiful. I don't know, but I wouldn't say it is like super mass appealing. It is not, but there's something quite addictive about this scent with the powdery rose coupled with the peach. And the peach doesn't feel like those iced peach tea, it doesn't give me that sparkling, effervescent iced peach tea, nuance. It is more of a realistic peach, nothing, baked apple, nothing spicy apple. It is a very exotic smelling one, and I'm so happy that I got this one in my collection, and I would highly recommend that you check this one out. Ajmal Wisal Dahab. Phenomenal, fantastic. I'm so happy for the price. The only thing I don't like about this is the fact that it comes in the 50 ml, and I'm sure I will just go through this, if I want to just use this one almost every day. I can go through this in less than 1 week, but it's a good one. The potency, the strength, and everything is there. I think I would do a dedicated video to this, but this is a beautiful peach, apple, mandarin with the rose, heavy powdery rose, and then some woods. Very beautiful, exotic, and different. The next one I have here is one I have already mentioned on this channel, and I consider it a hidden gem. It is not your typical fruity scent. It is also heavy in apple, and this is Zuhur Lak from the House of Arabiyat. It is different. It is not your normal sweet girly one, although this one is sweeter than the Wisal Dahab from Ajmal. It is much far sweeter because this one has some rum. It has dark rum, apple, which feels candied. The apple here feels candied, unlike the Ajmal, which doesn't feel candied. The apple here is candied and sweet, but it's not syrupy, and it also has some vanilla, and the vanilla here is not, those creamy vanilla, like the creamy vanillas. It's more of a spiced vanilla scent, with the boozy rum, which gives it a different, flair. It is different. It smells very oriental. It has a Middle Eastern tag to it. It is not going to be your usual Western nose trained apple and vanilla scent, with the rum. The rum makes it a bit dark, it's like a dark, boozy apple vanilla scent without being creamy. It is more of a crisp apple scent and a bit candied, very different and exotic. I think when I first introduced this Denise, one of my subscribers, she mentioned the fact that this has been compared to ragba, and no, to me, it doesn't give me ragba vibes at all. It doesn't, probably because of the vanilla in this one, but it is more of an apple, like a crisp candied apple, with the vanilla, which is not heavy and resonance and rich and thick, but it's still a very spiced sweet vanilla, with that boozy rum at the top. Very beautiful, exotic smelling. It doesn't smell like your normal everyday scent at all, not at all. So Zuhur Lak, I would highly recommend for your high profile event. But it feels like I wore it in an AC environment, and it performed so much better than in the high heat, So I think it's going to be much for the colder weather, it works better in colder environments than in the high heat. So that is something that you can look out for. But this is a very sophisticated oriental style, fruity scent with the heavy dose of apple, vanilla, and then a boozy rum, which making it like a bit of a sexy, twist. So Zuhur Lak by Arabiyat, I'll highly recommend. The next fragrance I want to talk about is Madawi, the OG from Arabian Oud. I have all those bottles, but they are back home in Ghana, so I don't have access to them. But these are fragrances I have tried and tested, and Madawi is not going to give you your generic everyday fragrance. It is also a peach heavy scent with some heavy patchouli at the base. It is not for the faint of heart. I have come across a lot of people who say they don't love Madawi, and I can get it because it is not generic. It is not your everyday. It is a very oriental, exotic peach, with some sparkling. It has a sparkling, effervescence about it, but not your citrusy, effervescent one. It is heavy in peach, and the peach doesn't also feel like the normal iced peach tea. It is just a dominant, realistic peach one, and the peach also doesn't come across as sweetened. It is also sort of, a bitter, unsweetened peach with a heavy presence of some patchouli and some florals. It is different. It doesn't come across as your norm, It feels very special, like for more special occasion, more trained, noses to be able to appreciate it. I know the first few tries of Madawi, especially if it's like a new bottle, can be a little too much, but when it macerates, it's really beautiful, different from the norm. It doesn't compare to anything that I can relate to. It doesn't give me, nothing really compares to that fragrance in terms of scent profile. It is different on its own. It stands on its own. It is beautiful, exotic, and different. And that is Madawi, the OG. The next one I want to talk about is from Paris Corner, and this is going to be Juicy Melange. This is not going to be your normal girly fruity one, like the rest in the line, the mango punch and the pear potion. No, this is a more complex, apple heavy. It says it has the notes of strawberry, but I don't get that strawberry as much as I do with the apple, and then the black currant and some florals and some green vanilla with a smoky touch. It's like baked apple somehow, but not like your, like it doesn't come across as baked goods, but there's something about the apple which feels slightly toasted and also spiced, and also, crisp and sharp. It is complex, very different from the everyday apple scents that have, heavy dominant apple scents. This is different. It has something like a smoky nuance, about it, a green vanilla touch, that jasmine heavy floral complex, but also very appealing to a lot of noses. It takes a while to get adjusted to, So if you're someone who is like always on the hunt for something to just easy grab and go, it might not be for you. But when you let it sit for a while, it transforms. It is beautiful. It is heavy on that, apple, but different and green and vanillic and, floral at the same time. Very beautiful. So Juicy Melange by Paris Corner, I'll consider a very complex, unique, matured, fruity scent with the heavy presence of that apple, nuance. The next one I want to talk about is going to be a fragrance from Arabiyat. It is more on the tolerable, more, mass appealing side, but it's still not your generic everyday fruity one. And this is going to be Blueberry Musk. I don't know where the top is, somewhere, but Blueberry Musk is a heavy, realistic blueberry scent with some woody base, a hint of a very clean, tolerable musk, and then some woods. This is beautiful. It feels very delicious. It feels like, you know, it's one of those fruits I'll consider gourmands. I don't normally consider a lot of fruity fragrances as gourmand or the typical gourmand scent, but this blueberry musk lays in that gourmand territory with the vanilla and that, you know, realistic blueberry. It's very beautiful, very delicious, like photorealistic blueberry scent with that vanilla and some woods and a hint of that max, which is not screechy. You know, the max here is not screechy at all. Very beautiful, well thought of, you know, well thought of and then well made fragrance from Arabiyat. And it's not to be inspired by Fenty by Fenty, but Fenty is so much polarizing that this one is, you know, yet it also has holds its own as a unique special occasion. It can be used for every day, but also, you know, one you can use for your special occasion, more matured, not overly sweet, you know, blueberry max fragrance. So Arabiyat did a good one with this. I love it. It's a good one, you know. I would highly recommend. I will highly recommend that. The next one I have here for fragrance, I have just a decant here, but I also own a full bottle, and this is Yara. No, this is Pink to Pink. Yeah, Pink to Pink by Lattafa, you know, Ajmal Pink to Pink. This is a more complex guava and lychee scent with the heavy presence of some smoky, you know, people say bent tie. That I don't get at bent tie, you know, reference. It is more of a smoky nuance, you know. It's like if we grill guava, you know. I don't know if we ever grill guava, but if guava was grilled, that is the vibe I'm getting from this, you know, with that lychee and some sweetness. It's very sweet, you know, with that smoky nuance. It has a complex smokiness, you know, about it. Quite woody too, you know, quite woody too. But that guava is very realistic, you know. I don't think I've come across any guava scent that is as realistic as Pink to Pink by, you know, Lattafa. This is beautiful. It is also not for the faint of heart. It is not for everybody, you know. A lot of these fragrances are not for everybody, you know, as a lot of people have already mentioned that they don't like some of these fragrances. But if you want something more dressed up, more complex, you know, that will make you stand out from the crowd, Pink to Pink is going to be that fragrance, you know. I would highly recommend. It macerates beautifully, you know. It does macerate beautifully, so you might want to give it a bit of a time. But even if you know you want a more complex, more challenging one, you can just pick it up, you know, and you are good to go. The next one I want to talk about is also from Arabiyat, and this is Watani Intense Gold, and this is beautiful. This is going to be your fruit bowl, you know, with some honey, you know. It has a very sharp but like well-rounded polished honey and some vanilla, you know, with other florals. But what you're going to get is like a realistic fruit bowl, like a fresh fruit bowl, you know, but very dense. Like imagine like very dense fruit, nothing crisp and sharp, you know, but dense fruit, you know. But you're not able to pinpoint exactly one particular note or one particular fruit, but it gives you an overall fruity nuance with the heavy presence of some, you know, polished honey and something like vanilla, you know. It's beautiful. It's like it's very resonant and rich and intense. It used to give me like almost an identical vibe of Oud Al by My Perfumes Arabiyat. It used to give me that, you know, but after maturation, it's taking a different direction on its own. Beautiful, heavy, sweet fruit, you know, like a fruit bowl, but also complex with that honey and the vanilla and other florals. Very beautiful. It smells very Middle Eastern and exotic. It's not going to give you anything Western, you know. It gets so much better with time, you know. Like a Western nose can get used to this, but from the get-go, it's going to give you a very oriental, Middle Eastern, you know, spice and, you know, something a bit like spice. It has some spice, you know, and that fruit bowl nuance about it. Different, unique, you know, well, like a polished lady, polished gentleman, unisex, in my opinion. It's so different, you know, but it's so worth the try. To me, it is so worth the try because this one is like very affordable for the price you're paying for Watani Intense Gold. Very affordable. You can blind buy this, you know, if you sort of, you know, go with my taste in fragrances. So I would highly recommend this, you know, Watani Intense Gold. The next one I also find quite complex, not for everybody, you know. It's not going to be your everyday everybody type of scent. It's going to be Khaltat Royal blends, you know. This is not your average one. You know, it's a sort of a spiced apple and pineapple, you know, with some woody base. It's spicy, you know, it's got a crisp apple, you know, touch to it, and also some sort of, you know, slightly baked goods feel, you know, like the pineapple feels slightly baked, but not like you know, charred pineapple. It doesn't give me charred pineapple vibes, but there's something like a slightly baked sort of thing with this one. It is oriental. It is not your normal. It is different. You know, it is different and spiced and apple and pineapple and other fruits. You know, it's different. That is how I can describe it. It gives you a very exotic oriental style, very polished, you know, lady or even gentleman, because it has a very woody base, especially after maceration. It gets much woody, you know. So Khaltat Royal Blends is not going to be your average, you know, average every day. And for me, when I say something is your average every day, I'm talking about something, you know, something like this, like Carefree Shade. To me, it is like an average everyday scent, you know. But this is one of my best fruity scents, you know. But I think it is not complex. It is more of a mass appealing one, you know. So I can't compare how I feel about this with this one, because this one is more of a dressed up, you know, more matured one. Well, whereas this one, for example, is like your generic everyday scent, you know, that you can easily go through. But this one, it needs some used to, you know, although quite mass appealing, it needs some used to as compared to something like Carefree Shade. So that is one of them. The next one I have here is going to be a fragrance I have spoken about severally. Lots of people say they do not like this, and I perfectly understand. It is not also for everybody. This is more of a floral, you know, a floral before the fruit. I always say this, it's more of the floral before the fruit. And this is Leen, which is the heavy tuberose, jasmine, osmanthus first before the mango. You know, the mango feels very creamy and green and unripe, you know, and unsweetened. It's a more, you know, floral scent with the smoky nuance. To me, it's like the jasmine feels a bit smoky. It's different. It is matured. It's not your everyday mango punch, you know, for example. It doesn't give me that. This is different, matured, floral scent, and then the fruit mango, you know, comes in. But when you spray this, it gives you a very creamy, you know, like very creamy polished vibes. I see a lot of people say they don't like this particular fragrance, but this, it is a love for me. I love this. It's different, you know, it's matured smelling. You need to get used to. Either you love it from first spray or you don't, you know. There's nothing like in between, you know. That is how I sort of see this one. The next one that is also a mango scent I want to talk about, you know, which gives me a similar polished, you know, matured vibes, is going to be Masa, also from Lattafa. That is like known to be a Gaimed, you know, inspired by, with the additional mango note, you know. So it has that sort of, you know, mineral accord or mineral, you know, mountain air feel with that, you know, like fresh plasticky tear rubber feel of a leather sort of, you know, accord, and then a heavy presence of a green and ripe mango. Masa is unique. It is beautiful. I hated that fragrance from first day, you know, that the first few times I sprayed it, I almost wrote it off. I almost decluttered that fragrance. I almost gave it to someone, you know, but I guess waited on it, and after about a month, it's bloomed into something beautiful, creamy, exotic, you know. It's like very polished, dressed up. It feels more dressed up than casual everyday, you know, Masa. It is beautiful. It smells delicious without being cloying, you know. It's well polished. It's like a very polished scent, and I'll highly recommend Masa from Lattafa. And the last fragrance on this list is going to be Ajayeb Dubai Portrait, also by Lattafa, a mango scent. And I like the fact that it is not a straight up mango scent. It is boxed with something. It has that, you know, sharp but also refined oud to it, you know. It is a complex combination. It's not your typical, you know, straight up mango scent. It has that oud about it, you know, which is quite complex for a lot of people to sort of, you know, digest, but it is beautiful. Once that fragrance macerates, the opening to me was the worst, you know. My daughter reacted to it and all that, you know, but after maceration, it turned out beautifully. And I like the fact that it's not your average mango scent, just like the Leen and Masa, you know. It also has a bit of a twist of an exotic, you know, feel to it with the spice and then the oud, you know. So these are 11 fragrances I feel are not juvenile, are not your everyday basic, you know, fruity scents, girly. These are more on the matured side, more on the dressed up side. Although you can use some of these fragrances like on daily basis as, you know, signature scents, I see them as more special occasion, more dressed up, you know, and more matured fruity scents. And that is going to be it for today. And I hope this video found you well. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in my next one. Take care. Bye bye.